Time is now 5 o'clock on July 25th, 2022. I now call this special meeting to order. First order of business is our roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Polak.
Present.
Councilwoman Jones.
Present.
Councilman Broadway.
Present.
Councilman Gaylor.
Present. All right. Thank you, and I'd like to thank everybody for being here this afternoon. Our mayor is not here due to being on vacation. I appreciate everyone that came out tonight. The next is items to be discussed, where we have Choice Neighborhoods Planning Grant Funding. And I guess at this time, we'll have Ms. Felicia Williams come forward. How you doing, ma'am?
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem,
Good morning. Good afternoon.
City Council. The City of Goldsboro recently signed a memorandum of understanding agreeing to serve as co-applicant for the HUD Choice Neighborhoods Planning Grant application, with the Housing Authority of the City of Goldsboro serving as lead applicant. The Choice Neighborhoods Planning Grant application or applicant must demonstrate financial community support for the comprehensive planning effort. The City of Goldsboro has been asked by the Housing Authority's consultant to commit $55,000 of its funds towards the specific purpose of completing a HUD-eligible Choice Neighborhoods planning activity to enhance the likelihood the application will be approved. The Choice Neighborhoods Planning Grant application is due to HUD by July 28, 2022. While currently developing the City of Goldsboro's fiscal year 22-23 annual action plan, the Community Relations Department will incorporate the HUD-eligible Choice Neighborhood activity once it has been identified. It is recommended that Council adopt a resolution approving $55,000 of Community Development Block Grant funds be committed to a HUD-eligible Choice Neighborhood planning activity and authorize the Mayor Pro Tem to sign the letter of financial commitment to accompany the HUD Choice Neighborhoods Planning Grant. And then I will just share what has changed from the July 11th presentation for the annual action plan and the activities that we propose to fund, and where we propose to apply to pull the $55,000. It's not up there. Okay, so you have the handout. Sorry, they don't have it back there. So as you see from July 11th, if you look down on the CDBG prior year column, if you look down there, where there is for public facility improvement, $343,415 of remaining CDBG. So what we propose on the next page is to pull from that amount, and we'll place the Choice Neighborhood activity under affordable housing. It will still come from prior year CDBG funds. Are there any questions about that?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
I do. When we had our planning meeting, and I talked about the 38,000 CDBG funds, and 31,000 was used, and the other was not. And so I was told that the rest of the funds that wasn't used, if it wasn't used by May, it had to be returned. I want to get some clarity that it had to be returned back. It had to be returned. So we're talking about using CDBG funds. So where are those funds coming from? Because if we have to return money back, I'm trying to understand, if we have to return money back, how do we still have money in there?
We haven't had to return. Which planning meeting? I'm not clear on which planning
The one that
meeting
was in February.
for the
City council.
The retreat?
Yes, the retreat.
Okay, so for the retreat, we discussed
Yes.
where the city had to return funds for
Right.
administrative.
Okay.
So, but that was $38,000, so then HUD in turn returned the money back to the program. So from fiscal year to fiscal year, we don't have to give money back to HUD.
Okay.
So we have 6 years to expend CDBG funds, we have 8 years to expend home funds.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So that's how we have the prior year in both pots. We have prior year CDBG and prior year home funds.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions?
Ma'am?
Any other discussion? Need to make that recommendation again, Madam Clerk?
Say again,
Do I need to make the recommendation?
if you want. Yeah.
Okay, so it's recommended that council adopt a resolution approving that you have attached the resolution approving $55,000 of community development block grant funds be committed to a HUD eligible Choice Neighborhoods planning activity and authorize the mayor pro tem to sign the letter of financial commitment that you have before you as well to accompany the HUD Choice Neighborhoods Planning Grant application.
Okay. At this time, we have a representation from Mr. Goodson and the gentleman on the screen. Does anyone on the council have any questions for either of the parties at this time?
Well, do I talk about what's in the application first?
Any way
Okay.
you would like to discuss, ma'am?
So before he comes up, on page 2, line 13, it talks about the funds, and it says, well, y'all can read it, but it talks about Choice Neighborhood is the lead applicant or co-applicant, if any, will ensure that their amount of the Choice Neighborhood Grant is supplemented with funds from sources other than Choice Neighborhoods in an amount of less than 5% of the amount of the Choice Neighborhoods Grant in accordance with Section 24C1A of the 1937 Act, 42 USC 143 VC 1A, and as incorporate of the NOFO. So now, you're saying 55,000, because I asked at our city council meeting, and everybody was here, if we were going to have any money up front. I asked that at the city council meeting, and it was said no. Then I asked it on that Friday. I asked the same question, and it was said no. So here we are. We're looking at 55,000, but number 13 of this application, it could be more than 55,000. Am I not correct, City Manager?
I'd like to get that clarified by our
Okay.
consultant and,
Okay.
yeah. Are we just talking about 5% of the planning grant or 5% of the overall grant?
Overall grant.
That's what we need clarity on. Because
Well-
if we give 55,000 and you're looking at a $500,000 grant, then we're obviously over 5% of the planning grant.
Right. And that's some money. That's some money, and I really would like for us to, really take a look at that before we, put our feet out there. I'm just talking to you. The council can do whatever. I'm only one person, but I had some concern about that.
Okay, if you'd like me to address that, so, the NOFO, document is really the rules of the grant application. And on page 54 of, the NOFO, it goes over, page 53 and 54, it talks about leverage funds, talks about the types of funds that are suitable for leverage commitments. Let me be clear that this is not money up front, that this is a commitment contingent upon HUD granting an award for this application. And it would be then required that the parties that have committed leverage funds make good on that commitment over the 2-year planning process. So that might be a year and to 2 years out. We won't hear if we are awarded a grant until probably November, December of this year, and then we'd have 2 years to provide the leverage fund. So that's talking about whether the money's up front or not. And then at the bottom of page 54, it talks about the points awarded for leverage funds. So given that we're considered a small community, small in terms of population, the application will get maximum points for leverage if the total leverage commitment is 30% of the grant amount requested. We're requesting 500,000, so if we provide a total of 150,000 of leverage funds, we will get maximum points, and that's what we're shooting for. So the Housing Authority has agreed to provide, I believe, over $100,000 of leverage commitment, and the city is being requested to contribute 55,000 of leverage commitment. So I hope that clarifies this point.
So there is no commitment, once we do this planning for the implementation. You know, say you get however big that grant is there any commitment from the city as a co-applicant?
No, there's no commitment on leverage funds for implementation. That would be subject to an entirely different grant application.
Okay?
Does anyone else have any questions for the gentleman? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Well, it's my understanding that we're applying for the planning grant right now.
Right.
That's what we're doing, not spending the 5% or later on the match. Somewhat like the Tiger grant was many, many years ago, but we're still in the planning stage now.
But they're asking for 55%, 55,000 commitment that we
That's
will
right.
be committed, that we will have to pay.
That's right, and it comes out of CDBG
Yeah, but it's
funds.
still, yeah.
If you're awarded the grant, yes.
Okay, I have Mr. Goodson and his staff here. If you would like to come forward to possibly entertain any questions that the council may have, sir. Thank you. I personally don't have any questions, but I
Mayor
wanted to
Pro
give
Tem
them the
Polo,
opportunity to ask
Council.
I don't have
if they had any questions in reference to this.
I have one, and this is just kind of a curiosity thing. You know, last time we were all together, or time before last we were all together. You know, we talked that this had been a consideration for some years and some weeks, and then we pulled together an MOU, had the conversation, had a special call meeting that Friday. We're able to get the thing in place, and here we are again. So why? You know, what is it? What changed? What about this warrants calling another meeting, and how could it advantage our application? What changed? Why wasn't this included in the conversation at either of the other two meetings? And again, this is not an attacking thing. I just want to know, you know, what changed? What put us in a position where that we now feel that it's important to provide this additional leverage?
Sure. So we're working on the application as we go, right? We didn't know you were going to have to call a special meeting to leverage $55,000, right? We thought that could have been a city manager or Ms. Williams go ahead, right, for $55,000 and a $60 million budget that you guys have, right? We made a $102,000 commitment. The board did this a few year ago, so we thought it would be pretty easy to get to the $500,000 point. You know, I don't like meeting no more than you do, right?
And that's not a complaint about meeting too many times. If there's an opportunity in front of us, I want to meet. I just want to know what changed.
We just want to, you know, this is a work in progress for us. We're learning this grant as we go. We're still, you know, every day something comes up that we need for this grant. So when a NOFA comes out, we have very little time to read it and to respond. And so we're doing our best to make sure we get it in by the due date. Right, you know, you get a limited timetable. Every NOFA is a little bit different that they put out every year, so we can't look at last year's and say, oh, this is what we're going to do this year. So it has been in the planning, but, you know, we have to respond to the specific NOFA that's out there. Thank you, Mr. Gaylor.
Thank you.
Thank you. That answered my question.
If I could just follow up, because we're in the midst of the annual action plan, I felt it would be appropriate for council to determine whether they wanted to spend this money this way.
Which I think is appropriate. No complaints about meetings. I just want to know what had changed and what had brought us to our time together today.
Sure.
And that was my concern as well, because when the letter went out, I noticed that Councilman Gaylor's name was on it, and I wondered if there was anything else different, that the reason why you were asking for the meeting as well as our Mayor Pro Tem, who
Mayor Pro Tem Pollock called me, and we were discussing the transparency of funds. We were discussing if we had already agreed to be part of the MOU, but that there was the plausibility that this would strengthen the application. And if we were going to be committed to this MOU, was it worth trying to be the strongest MOU and the strongest application possible. And I have absolutely no desire to move money in shadows. And so I think that was the decision, as
Okay.
inconvenient as it can be, making sure that Felicia has the opportunity to present herself publicly to say, here's where it's going to shift things, be that good or be that bad, and then we could vote on it publicly. That was my reason.
Okay. Thank you. Well, those are the questions that I had. I really would like to thank Mr. Goodson for, what he's done is engaging his people. We asked you to do that. You did that. And you had some good news for me today. And I'm happy about that, but I still have some reservations with this 55,000. I just do. It's nothing against you personally at all. It's just that I feel that the city council is responsible for making sure that funds are where they're supposed to be, go where they're supposed to be. We're looking at a budget, and I know money's come out of different pots. I understand that. But we're looking at $55,000 or more, depending on what we find out about line 13, and that is vague, so we don't understand that. And then I look at $55,000, and I look at the city and where we are with our utility bills and citizens having to pay more money for gas. And here we are for gas and food, and here we are, we're going to commit to $55,000.
So can I just say one thing?
Yes, please.
We're talking about $55,000 here to get $500,000 and then onward to $50 million. When we talk about the citizens of Goldsboro, especially in that census tract, what we're talking about is a census tract that has 49% poverty, has students that have 2 to 3 grades behind their grade level. We have substandard waste and sewer there. We have flooding in this neighborhood. So $55,000 is a very small amount to hopefully leverage to fix some of these issues that we have. This is not just a housing plan, it's a neighborhood plan, it's a people plan. So I don't know how the council can fix gas. I mean, I'm not in your seat, right? But I know that this money can be used for some of the main things that need to be fixed within this city. When I talk about the people, the neighborhood, and the housing. And in your MOU prior, we're talking about intergenerational mobility for youth that supports our youth and our families. You're talking about neighborhoods, doing public-private investment in distressed neighborhoods, offering amenities such as safety, good quality schools, commercial activity. These are things that are needed within that district that we're looking at, and you serve for that district. You're the council, right? So
yes, I do, and I want the best.
The average income for that area is under $11,000. So you're looking at 300 to 400 families that have less than $11,000. So when we're talking about $55,000, we have to put all this in perspective to make sure that we're moving our city in the right direction. And this will move our city in a right direction pretty quickly. I don't know any other funds that are coming into that area that are going to leverage this type of investment for housing people in the neighborhood. I haven't been presented that, but we're trying to get it for the city. That's why we're working as partners. We can call lead applicant, co-applicant, but we're partners in this to get us through. The House Authority, like Felicia said, is leveraging $102,000. So we're only asking you for 55, and we feel like that's a good thing for the citizens of Goldsboro, not just your area.
Yes, for everyone. And I do serve in that district, and I am concerned about them. I'm concerned about their welfare. I'm concerned about everything, and no, the city cannot pay anybody's gas bill, but they can lower some other things, and we won't get into that. But my concern is this $55,000. I'm very concerned about it. I'm not. It's just a lot, and there are people already hurting now. You're talking about 2 years to whether we whether we get it or not. So it's a possibility that we could. I hope you got some good grant writers, and it's possible that we could, it's possible that we could not. So we got things going on right now. You're talking about this $55,000 with the $1 million, but we got things right now too. So that's my take on it. I'm very concerned about it, and it's up to the council, however you guys vote. It looks good. I am all for affordable housing. I want each area in Goldsboro to look well and to flourish and to do well, but I want us to do our best that we can do with the monies that we're given.
If I could, maybe Bill or Anthony, you could talk a little bit about what your plan. You submitted a budget, and for the $55,000 for the city, it said $30,000 for the early action projects and $20,000 for environmental assessment or market assessment. Maybe that would be helpful.
Sure.
Yes, allow me to address that,
Cool.
if I can. So the $55,000 would be allocated for 3 line items in the budget. So $30,000 would go to what are called early action projects. These would be actual physical improvements in the neighborhood. HUD will contribute $150,000, and this grant application will commit leverage funds of $40,000 on top of that for a total of $190,000. So these would be projects in the neighborhood that would be done within the first year of the grant award. It could be adding, let's say, a playground to a park. It could be cleaning up vacant lots. It could be demolishing a dilapidated house that's a crime hotspot. It could be putting up additional street lighting in a particular location. These projects would be selected by the community as part of the process. So we're asking that $30,000 of your $55,000 go into these short-term neighborhood improvements. Another $20,000 of the $55,000 would be allocated for a market study. This would be it would be focused on the neighborhood area, but it would obviously be an assessment of the entire market area. And I think that would be a valuable thing for the city of Goldsboro to have, would be an updated market study. So that is a requirement of the choice planning grant, that a market study be commissioned. So the $30,000 and the $20,000 would be allocated to those 2 items, and then there's an additional $5,000 item called choice convenings and related travel. So oftentimes when, every year HUD has what's called a choice convening, where people who are new to the Choice Neighborhoods program can go to a conference and learn all about it, learn what other people have done in the past, learn some of the ins and outs of the program. And it's useful to get, especially staff members, up to speed on the choice program. So $5,000 has been allocated from the city for that. The Housing Authority has allocated $5,000. And this would be for their own staff people to go to this conference and learn about the Choice Neighborhoods program. So those are the 3 line items that the $55,000 would go to. I think they're all valuable activities and worthy of the commitment.
Are there any more questions? Thank you, Mr. Goodson and your staff.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
At this time, if there are no more questions, I need a motion to adopt a resolution approving $55,000 of community development block grant funds to be committed to a HUD eligible choice neighborhoods planning activity, and authorize me, Mayor Pro Tem, to sign the letter of financial commitment to accompany the HUD choice neighborhoods planning grant application. Do I have a motion this time?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Is this gonna be a roll call, Ms. Laura, or just show of hands? Okay, show of hands. All in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so it appears we don't have anything else. Does the city manager have anything to bring before council? Any council members have anything to bring before us?
Just, we need a state of the special session.
Since it's a special meeting, the only thing that's noticed for the meeting is the only thing that can be discussed.
Okay,
You can't add to the agenda or what have you.
okay.
Okay?
There being none, meeting adjourned.